Okay, wow. We just saw that for the first time too, and that was fucking phenomenal. Thank you, Curtis. Curtis makes us look so good. Old Curtis is the best. Hashtag Old Curtis is the best. So, hi, welcome back to Wrath and Tears with our awesome new intro. I'm over the moon. People that do visual art are awesome. So, right before we get started, we do want to say one thing. This game is set in the 50s. The 50s has a lot of cultural bullshit. Lots of really terrible opinions about pretty much everybody. And racial slurs are a regrettable use. You know, they're used a lot. And as we encounter some of the characters that we're planning on encountering, some of them are going to use some racial slurs. And we want you to know that we are all role-playing terrible people. The Van Horsts are all role-playing one terrible person at a time. I'm role-playing the rest of the terrible world. That they are terrible people, and that we don't use these words, and we don't think that they should be in use. But we are playing a game full of terrible people in a broken world, and so we're going to use some terrible people, broken world language.
One thing that I also think is important to mention is that we're not going to be using any terms that are in current use today. There is a certain level where authenticity needs to be disregarded in place of making sure that we're not harming other people. So any terms that are going to be used are things that have at this point in time been completely fallen out of use. We're not going to be using terms that are currently in use at this time period, because that's just too much.
Yeah, correctly said and well said.
We have lots of awful historical things we can say that our characters would say. We don't need to trigger people with modern words.
Yeah. One of the things that history has given us is plenty of terrible language. But that being said, so we finished last game in the morning of June 2nd. June 2nd or June 3rd? Oh, goodness. It was the morning of June 2nd. Bethany had just... What would be the verb you would use for what Bethany had just done? Consumed?
Yeah, consumed.
Consumed. Highlandered might be another one. Another version of herself. That was fun but terrible. And now the Van Horsts fled ahead of the police or whoever would be coming to investigate the sound and the fury that happened in a graveyard in the middle of the night. And so the players have said that what they want to do, which I think is great, is they're going to take a whole day off. So we finished the morning of June 2nd. It is now the morning of June 4. And a preposterously, ridiculously decadent breakfast is being laid out. It's like, if you imagine the continental breakfast, except writ large and given an unlimited budget. So there are actual French pastries. There are beautiful things. There are a couple of chafing dishes with, oh God, what do you think? Eggs Benedict and some bacon, and what, you know, they could probably feed half the hotel staff with what they get to pick from for 3 people, because wealth allows for waste in a bunch of really terrible ways. And that's what we're doing today. So we have had a day off. So as we eat breakfast, let's roll our various problem dice. But what we're going to do is we're going to roll our problem dice, and then that person is going to tell us about what they did yesterday on their day off. So who wants to tell me about their summer vacation first? Matthew, go for it. Did you sleep?
Yes, but not well.
Okay.
That is, I'm still at a -1, right, for the wounds, or do I get to take that off finally?
I think that we can take that off. I mean,
yay!
Admittedly, it's been a short amount of time, but the number of game hours that you've dealt with that, I feel, is adequate.
I appreciate it. So that would put me at 12 for nightmares, and I am
better than a 9.
Yeah. So, and do you also want me to roll whether or not infirm flared up. I know that it was a stressful situation, or are we good with like just it's been a period of time since?
Well, let's see how you're feeling. Or
Okay.
maybe what's more accurate is let's see how you felt yesterday.
That is a 13. So
you were a little worn out yesterday?
yeah, not feeling great, but not actively measlesing.
Yeah, so a little bit of a fever, some muscle pain, some joint pain, but not enough to ruin your whole ass day.
Which is good, because I think that the way that he tried to recenter himself, at least on his day off, would be to try to give ways to make his siblings like more centered also, because a lot of his sort of control comes from also being the person who like is in control also of like happiness and also sadness. So for like Bethany, a lot of it would have just been, you know, making sure that like she was more settled after eating herself, which I will leave to her to explain how she deals with that. But for Clara, she lost her drug paraphernalia. And so Matthew probably would have spent some time trying to find new ones for her. He doesn't have like the know-how of how to find like the drugs themselves, but the paraphernalia is probably a little bit easier for him to get a hold of. Is at least my question.
Well, it's my understanding that at least, you know, modern heroin use, for all I know about it, is basic access to basic medical equipment. And so I presume that holds true.
I am bad at history, so I would leave. I'm not sure whether or not Clara can
also
tell us.
It's kind of like you've also got a doctor on call.
It's true.
So it's I kind of feel like that getting what
I
seems
feel like
to
that
me basic paraphernalia is the work of like, you know, leaning on the doctor and saying, hey, I need you to get me like some needles and a few simple bits and bobs, and I also need you to deliver them without any questions. Could you do that for me, Doc? And just hear his Hippocratic oath groaning like the rigging of a ship under high wind.
I think that fits really well. And then like knowing him, he'd probably like put it like with like a little bow or something like that, like make it as if he's like giving jewelry. He probably also gets some jewelry, but like that's the sort of thing. And then like the rest of his time is probably spent schmoozing with like various other like gentlemen and stuff, like basically trying to redo what he did before poorly in like those early sessions, but now with like the further knowledge that he's gained with the environment, and like trying to basically get back into that feeling of that sense of power.
Yes. And I think that you've got a couple leads. And you and I will both share them with your sisters after we find out how they're doing. Okay. The thing that made me bust out laughing was this mental image of Matthew like walking out of a really expensive jewelry store with one of those long tennis bracelet boxes, opening the box, throwing the tennis bracelet over his shoulder, and putting a needle in and shutting it and rewrapping it. Like it was a beautiful 100%. Okay, good.
It's like a Tiffany's. It's like Tiffany's or something, and like it's like, oh, is this a Tiffany? A Tiffany's syringe. How sweet of you. So that's where I'm at.
Wow. Good night, everybody. We're not going to top that.
Forever.
Clara would take both the Tiffany's necklace and a bunch of syringes in tissue paper in the box. She would like both of those things. That's how you really spoil your sister lover.
We are the best dressed people to ever say that.
The worst.
So okay. Well, Matthew, we identified that your sleep wasn't fantastic.
Yes.
Thankfully, you weren't sucked wholesale into a terrible nightmare realm of your own creation. But what you did have was a flashback to a really bad day. You've met kind of your doubles before. There was a time that you were in a terrible place, and there were many desperate people who were attempting to become Van Horsts, and they were committing brutal, terrible crimes in an attempt to impersonate you. And do you remember giving that dead person who was trying to be you your tie?
I did.
Okay, I do too. Except the problem is, in this dream, it's a short dream, thankfully. It's a sprint rather than a marathon of trauma. However, as you undid your tie, there was kind of a very strange feeling around your neck. And as you handed it to him, your blood vessels started getting pulled out of your neck. As if your tie was meat that was part of your body. And as this double, so if you remember, he had like a face stapled onto his own head, and he had someone else's hair like punched in for the beard. It was the percotide hours that went into making that person look kind of like you was way too many. And so as you hand him your tie, and it's a dream, so you can't stop, even though pulling your own blood vessels out of your neck is really not something you want to do on your average Tuesday. You do, and as you do that, he ties the tie, and then he continues to like tuck the blood vessels in. And the last thing you remember is kind of the end of your major circulatory system like pulling out of your neck and sucking into his body like spaghetti. And, then you wake up.
That's unpleasant. My guess is that is processing some major trauma.
Yeah.
out of the thing. So I'm gonna do my quick roll for keep it together for that.
Yeah.
To see what the result was. That is plus coolness. So that's 15. So I keep it together quite well.
Yep.
But man, did I not like it. I now better understand Bethany's desire to eat and kill all of her doubles.
It's
Don't
a
like
compelling
him. Shouldn't
argument, isn't it?
I'm just gonna put that out there. It's like a really compelling argument. I'm like, nah, that like makes sense.
They
Yeah.
shouldn't be there. Don't
I
like it.
supported you intellectually yesterday, but now I support you emotionally. All right. So Matthew's been worse. He's been better, but he's been worse. So you did wake up with a little bit of the ghost of measles haunting you, but it did also feel like as that fever and discomfort fled, also you feel as if maybe you finally enough inside meat has finally gotten back into the right place that you wake up and you're like, all right, I'm ready to rock and roll, as much as Matthew is ready to rock and roll physically. Rock and or roll. Pick one, please. Yeah. So, Bethany.
Yeah.
So how do you feel after? What would you call that? What would be the terrible like Latin Greek for that? Would that be autophagy?
Yeah, sure.
So how do you feel after that?
I mean, she's way too pleased with herself currently. Like, she should not feel good about it, and she does, because the woman in red showed up in the back of her head and was very pleased with her, and that was good. Her family supports that she did it, and that's good. And there's one less Bethany in the world. That's good. And also it made Bethany's stability go back up to as stable as Bethany gets. And that's good.
Question mark.
Question mark. There are no downsides currently that Bethany knows about.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, as much as Bethany has sometimes struggled with disordered eating, this morning it seems that Bethany has woken up with an honest to God appetite.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like for things with calories even.
Oh, Bethany's gonna eat like eggs Benedict. She's ready to like consume food.
Well then.
Yeah.
So let's see what the schizophrenia thinks about all of this.
We'll find out. Well, that's an 18. So yeah.
Okay. Like,
I'm at 2 negs though, so a 16? Like I rolled an 18 about it. Yeah, I rolled an 18 about it, and she's only a -1 to disadvantage rolls, so it's 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 15 or up. The rest is fluff.
Yeah.
So Bethany comes out like she's doing the hair thing, like she's dressed, she's got her pants on the right way, her makeup's on, her like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bethany's the most together you've seen her since we landed. And
So
you're
I
about to
feel-
watch her put the most calories in her face that you've seen her do in a long time. So
What this has now taught us is that we need to encourage Bethany to continue eating her other selves, because that is the best treatment that she can ever get. That's where my character's mind is going. He's like, ah, yes, good. Now we know how to help Bethany.
well, also Bethany's like, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I see no downsides. This is yeah.
I feel great. There are clearly no side effects from this.
I feel good. So yeah, in a weird, terrible mirror possibly to us being very comfortable with Clara's addiction, Bethany just did a thing and she feels better than she's ever felt in her entire life.
So Bethany's day off was essentially like a super brassy, like Rat Pack, like montage of having a good day.
Yeah,
Of
Bethany
getting a haircut and walking around and the whole 9 yards. Was that just essentially Bethany's day?
Yeah, Bethany might have called one of those girls from the party and gone for drinks. Like, yeah, Bethany's having a good day.
Okay.
She's super together. Like,
I think that's great. It's
Yeah.
terrifying, but I think it's great. Okay. So Clara,
Yes.
it looks like your dear brother has Matthew just given or will give later, or did he give her yesterday her new paraphernalia?
I want to say that it was probably yesterday when we were all having a great day.
Okay.
Mhm.
So this is the first. So after about 12 hours of crisis, you got your kit, and so this is the first morning. Well, you've only had one morning where you didn't get to wake up and maybe take a hit, but now you wake up, and let's see what your addiction thinks of.
Yep. Oh, okay. 1 and a 10, so that's 11. So that's okay.
It's not a 9.
Not a 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So I think
middle
that
of the
gives-
road, kind of where she's been.
Yeah, which isn't wrong.
Yep. Still, it's there. She's still going to use. Like, I feel like on the day off, if Matthew rolled over when they woke up, especially because she knows when he's had a bad night, she had them with him for a really long time. She would have been very gentle and caring and trying to take care of him. But then when she noticed him move enough where he's like, oh no, maybe I'm feeling better, she tested that. She was like, just lay back. And so she had a good morning that morning, unless Matthew said no. Oh, you're feeling physically better. We should make certain that's okay.
Generally, that's the way to deal with things.
It is. It absolutely is.
We don't return your car until we know it runs right.
Yeah. Yeah, so she gently seduced him, still did a lot of the work 'cause he's still kind of recovering, but that morning, and honestly, her day off is going to be a day of complete indulgence. Like, She would use whatever she could get her hands on, go down to the tables, take advantage of the free drinks, gamble all morning and all afternoon, just drinking herself silly, just having a good long day off where she is relaxing and schmoozing and indulging in every vice she possibly can and being the charismatic life of the party. So everybody remembers how fun she is and how good she's going to be to work with. And when we start this theater, the show up, how enjoyable it's going to be and how much money we have to back it up. So clearly this is a good person to know. So she's done it in a way of schmoozing, but also in a way to indulge every vice she possibly can over the day.
Okay. So she's being rich and happy and making sure she's seen doing it.
Yes.
Okay.
And having lots of fun.
Okay. Do you go back into the high rollers room or do you dwell amongst the plebeians?
Probably a little bit of both. She would go where any of the girls or the show staff tend to gamble. If they do, would figure that out and kind of go hobnob with the other theater people for a little bit.
I would say that probably you ended up at a different casino for that, because I can't imagine that a casino would want their staff to gamble at work in their off hours. That seems, I feel comfortable saying that.
Yes.
So, however, it is Las Vegas and you are not spoiled for choices. So, at one point, Clara leaves, has a 6 martini English tea with at a different table and makes a couple of friends. Okay. Yeah. I see no reason for any of that to not work.
Comes home completely soused. Probably looking has the itch, but it shouldn't fail her addiction role, and has indulged in other various drugs and substances to intoxicate herself. So
yeah. Okay.
Is very pleased by Matthew's gift. Probably honestly makes out with him and tries to toss him in bed at the end of the night to show her thanks.
Okay.
Luckily, I am more healed, and thus tossing does not cause me to be in tragic times.
Excellent.
He throws him into the bed and he gets the big cartoon X's over his eyes.
Yeah, and that's how Matthew died. As he lived, fucking his sister.
Oh my god.
Days off. Now we are at breakfast with our very
so Bethany is apparently making up for lost meals.
Yeah.
So while you guys are eating, Matthew yesterday had found some business cards that he had stuffed somewhere in frustration after his poorly handled initial meeting.
I would not call it poorly handled. I would call it an off day. That was clearly not my fault, but just everybody else was just clearly just not here for real business, and that's what I'm gonna stick to.
Okay. Over there at the testing facility, they call that a low yield fizzle.
Wow.
Okay. Now, do you remember that one of the people that you actually made an adequate impression on was that guy who was kind of middle of the road, very, very kind of salt of the earth, very middle class? And you were
Frankie
like,
something.
Yeah, and it hurt my heart.
Yeah, and you were like, this is my takeaway, this jabroni. Yeah. So
call you Maddie or something awful like that.
I think he did call him Maddie.
He did.
Oh, it was bad.
Yeah, he chews with his mouth open and everything. Like, sorry. I'm not going to role play it because I'll throw myself off a cliff, but, just letting you know that he does chew with his mouth open.
Thank you for giving me that world building detail.
I have to live with it too. All right. So what was it? Frankie?
I think so. I can't remember his last name, and I don't have it written down. But
Really, would any of us remember his last name? Would a Van Horst remember this man's last name? Probably not.
really.
Not really, no.
All I remember is that he didn't call Matthew his name. I don't.
Yeah.
We all remember that.
Yeah. Yes. You remember how he treated your name more than you remember his name. And once again, if you're acting like a Van Horst, go to therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wrote down Frankie the reseller in my notes for the night. So
sounds right.
So, however, he was one of the people that did seem to respond to you positively. If we recall, he has actually purchased Van Horst's steel.
Yeah.
He has both sold things to your companies and he has bought things from your companies. He's one of these guys that, you know, would have been an itinerant trader 1,000 years ago. He buys a bunch of stuff in one place and then he takes it to another place that doesn't have any and sells it. And he just does that. He doesn't produce anything. He just makes it harder to sell things. Yeah, he just exists solely to raise prices. But he does know a lot of people. And he would be an easy contact. You wouldn't have to really put any effort into schmoozing him, because essentially sitting down at the table with him would be adequate, you know, largesse to get whatever you wanted out of him. So, you know, that would be an easy target. If you wanted to maybe try to find a different option that is not kind of his archetype, we can totally do that too. But that's the one that I remember.
I think that it makes sense for Matthew to use him in that way, and I think that he would just rationalize it to himself in the sense of like, well, you know, this is a tool that I am using as opposed to a peer. And as long as he keeps that lie to himself, I think that he would do that. And rich people are very good at lying to themselves, so I feel like that fits well.
Okay, so you go and have like a semi-business lunch or something with him yesterday?
Yeah, like he would call it probably something like that, where it's basically like, you know, he's wanting to use basically, you know, the idea of like, you know, working together business wise as he tries to see whether or not he wants to expand things out here, because he's been here long enough that I think he's also just getting the itch of this is not a man who takes vacations. And even though he's working on a thing here, he's not working on his business here. And I think that it's causing him to start having just like, I need to get stuff done. And I need to have a reason to be here if I'm going to be here that fits with my ethos. And so I think that him starting that and using that, he's not going to throw away a good contact just because it's unpleasant.
No. And as much as he is, according to the Van Horsts, very uncouth, he's an intelligent guy. You know, he's college educated, not Ivy League, but he's college educated. He generally does well. He has a solid amount of honor in his business or, you know, ethics, but, you know, he's not your class. He's not your kind of people, and he never will be. Maybe if he works really hard and his kids work really hard, maybe his grandchildren will be your grandchildren's kind of people, but he's at least 2 generations away from breaking through the Tiffany
old money,
the Tiffany glass ceiling. I know it's awful, and we know it's awful. So lunch is pretty good. Do you ask about Mr. Clamenza, as mentioned by not Bethany?
Yes, but like he's gonna you know, sort of circle around that in a lot of ways. Like, you know, he doesn't want to just kind of like out and be like, so how about those mob bosses? But like it's the sort of thing where it's you know, I've heard some, you know, from various contacts, because of course he's going to talk about how he has all these other contacts, right? Like clearly this is not my only contact. That'd be so funny. But like the sort of bringing in that idea of like, I've heard, from some people that someone to talk to if you really want to get things moving here is Mr. Clamenza, but I was wondering if you've ever dealt with him or heard about him, like things like that.
He acts a little coy for a minute because this is a situation where he knows something that you want to know.
Yep.
And there is a little bit of, you can watch the calculations because his heart is on his sleeve and his brain is on his face. And you can watch him do the like, is this the time I extract a boon from a Van Horst in exchange for my information, or do I just give this freely and presume that I'm going to profit on their goodwill later? Like, you know exactly what he's thinking. You've done this. There are no new moves in business. There are only new products.
Yeah.
And he goes through it, but he seems to actually roll me influence other. Let's just see exactly whether or not he thinks that your goodwill is adequate payment.
Nice. That's a 19.
Okay. So after he gives you a back rub and cuts your steak for you, and looks at you in a way that makes Clara jealous, he pretty much gives you everything because the language that he uses is very clearly, I would greatly appreciate a ride on your coattails. Oh, Laird. And so what he tells you is that Salvatore Clamenza he is not a major mob boss on the East Coast, although the family that he is from is an East Coast family. He is out here because he's a little rough and tumble.
Okay.
He's not quite as he's not quite as well polished as other mob people. He does his airs and graces fairly well, but he's a little bit, you don't want to say ham-handed, not where he might hear you. But he's a little straightforward.
Okay.
But what he does do is he maintains control very well. That's the thing he's good at, is when he locks it down, it stays locked down until he says it doesn't. And pretty much he's got people in almost every casino. The Tropicana is a property that his money is involved in. Although, like, Frankie doesn't specifically know how. Shock. But he is very aware, that this is a property where Clamenza's money moves. And he kind of does the thing where he goes, no, I've never done business with the guy, so I don't particularly know. Waffle, layer and layer and layer of chaff. But he does give you a couple of names of people, of intermediaries that you could speak to. Yeah. Or Clamenza is known to go to, I think it's the Sands. I think it's the Sands if I didn't get the dates wrong. Go to one of the other casinos and take in one of the shows. So, and that's something that if you're brave enough and slick enough, you can sit near him and maybe ingratiate yourself, but it is a super ballsy move because that kind of is his night off.
Yeah.
So it's a high risk, high reward situation where if you can rapidly ingratiate yourself, or if you can come to him with information that would make him super duper happy, you could do it, or you could essentially do what was as close to organized crime as official channels. Contact someone, say you'd like to set up a meeting, and of course you're going to be vetted, and some other things.
Is he known to have any certain vices?
Yes. He loves himself. He loves watching the fights. Now, that pings in your mind because what you did notice that Frankie didn't say was boxing.
Yeah.
What he said was the fights, capital T, capital F. So that is an implication there might be some bare knuckle fisticuffs happening somewhere where the police are either paid off or not interested.
Okay.
He loves his women. You know, he's a very this isn't what Frankie would say, but Matthew probably stores this as he's a very sensual creature in that he likes things that feel good. He likes good food. He likes good wine. He likes ridiculously expensive cigars. You know, it's all of that stuff. You know, he seems to be very, you know what? He's addicted to the illusion.
Okay.
He loves all of the comfortable things that makes the illusion feel good. So he likes all of those worldly, ephemeral, you know, transient things that are the they're the furry inside on the gilded handcuffs of reality.
He's basically the guy who has the whole statement in the Matrix of like, I know this steak is fake, but it's delicious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will definitely like he certainly shows like the appreciation for the information. There's certainly the implications made that like, you know, this is, you know, obviously something to be remembered. He will also make sure that he knows that like, you know, there is interest in him expanding, and of course they'll need someone to help, you know, move things and move product and things like that, to kind of like show that like, if you work with me, you do get things, and if you don't ask for things, then I like you more. Because then I'll just, because no, like there's a certain level of like, okay, you didn't ask for something, so I'm going to give it to you, and that you're going to get more when you don't ask than when you do.
Yeah, my rewards will always be richer than your requests.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's certainly something that like is an ongoing business move that like Matthew would use, because of the fact that like it's always better to not have people ask you for something and then try to force your hand when what they ask for isn't something you want to give.
Yeah. Why say no if you train them never to ask?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's also the first classy thing that Frankie has done. It is proof, oh, you could be better.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. And he's not dumb. He gets it. You know, this is and as you know, I imagine that the conversation began with kind of a re-recognizing of how you two have interacted business-wise, and then at the end of the conversation, I can imagine bookending it with you increasing the ways that you are interacting business-wise.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, well, I know that we're going to, you know, I know that if I remember my schedule correctly, we should be having a huge amount of export, such date. So I should be contacting you probably 2 or 3 weeks before that to see what your capabilities for shipping are, or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So just a little bit of good Pavlovian training there for your loyal hound. Okay. So you've got a couple options there. You could go through the formal channels, which is essentially, you know, contact somebody inside one of the hotels that's on the take, or you could go super big, which is 15 and higher or bust, essentially, and try to talk business on his night off, or you could do something a little bit more dramatic but significantly less chancy, and that's go to the fights.
So he's gonna talk about this with his sisters over breakfast.
Okay, so you want to drop back into real time?
Yeah, let's drop back into it, because I don't want to make this decision just, especially with the fact that he likes the theater and stuff like that. I immediately thought of some things with Clara, so I want to work on some stuff.
I've got my notebook. Start talking.
So I spoke to some connections about Clamenza. And it seems that he has his fingers in a lot of different pies in the area. He's not a man of finesse, which I feel fits with the fact that he sent someone with very little finesse after us. This doesn't necessarily surprise me that his tool was essentially a hidden blunt force hammer. But if we want to deal with gaining power in this area, we're going to have to deal with him. I know that he has a few ways of being able to be approached. There's, of course, going through his people. He's got people dealing with his affairs throughout the city. There are official channels, as much as there can be with this sort of thing. He enjoys going to the shows at the Sands, but that's more of his relaxation time. And he enjoys the fights, which I'm assuming are not something that are easy to find. I'm assuming basically people trying to beat the shit out of each other without police overview. I have some ideas on where we might be able to do things, but I'm curious about your opinion.
I feel like the fights is something that we should figure out anyway. It will be a useful place to be and know and to make connections with people who are powerful in this town. So I would like to look into those no matter what and see if we can secure a place to watch. Otherwise, I've been trying to get into the theater community here anyway. I don't know if I could try to guest headline at the Sands or even get a few shifts singing on their side lounges. I would have to see who their booking agent is, but I might be able to perform there. If that's where he goes, we could impress him. But he undoubtedly knows who we are.
Oh, yes.
Sent somebody after us to kill us.
One thing that I'm interested in is, what if we send him a friendly message via his time at the Sands? This is a man who likes the finer things in life. He likes his wine, women, and song. If we can use whatever strings you're able to pull within the community to perhaps get some of the people that he most enjoys to watch to attend to him more personally, make sure that he knows that it's coming from us, and then meet him at the fights, that might be a way of having him already buttered up and knowing that we are interested in dealing with him in a non-lethal way before we even see him.
I like all that. I mean, I mean, just from my perspective, I think all of that sounds great. You just need to tell me, which parts of it you want to do. Yeah, now I can tell you that the Sands is, that's where the Rat Pack is. That's where Sinatra is. And, yeah, Sinatra, Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis, Sammy Davis Jr., all of those. I mean, this era's biggest names are all playing at the Sands. So, Yeah, I mean, are you willing to try to? That's a big lever to lean on. That would be a very influential. That would have to be a pretty good influential friend role. But
would it be possible to do an influential friend role with a helping hand to get an extra bonus to it? Because Clara already has like influence in the theater, so that would, if we work together, basically.
yes, but I am gonna say that if you guys biff this roll, that this is going to that there is going to be measurable blowback.
Okay. So it's I'm not going to make that decision OC on my own. So that's up to you if you want to take that risk.
Clara would take that risk. We need to figure it out, and realizing that the Sands is where those people are performing, she almost certainly couldn't get a guest headline there, but she could probably get in one of the side acts, like, you know, in this lounge when you've taken off some time gambling. It's not the 8 p.m. headline, it's the 4 p.m. lounge show. But, you know, they've got a new singer. Clara's quite good, and she can get in, and in her head, because he knows who we are already, she's going in under her own name. How dare they come into the playground, and she's entertaining after he tried to kill her and kill them all. And go in for an afternoon, maybe he shows up, wine and dine, and try to impress the staff of the Sands. Like, this works for Clara because she's going to try to make a big jump twofold.
Okay. All right. So what you want to do is you want to try to ingratiate yourself with the theatrical staff of the Sands. And
Enough to get a few gigs for, like, in the afternoon.
Okay. I don't see why that shouldn't be reasonable to attempt. So, don't you have an advantage that lets you enthrall people with your art, or was that only?
Do.
Okay. How
Forbidden
about you?
Inspiration.
Yeah. How about let's roll Forbidden Inspiration?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. Okay. That's a 9, but it's plus soul. And I just bought that up, so 12. Yeah.
You can use your art to experience visions. And I thought you had one that lets you affect other people.
Oh. I think we actually took that one direct. We took that out. I have artistic talent, which is roll plus charisma to influence your audience during a scene, but I don't think
There it is.
Okay, is that it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. It's still a 12 because I've got
Okay.
a plus 3. So
I knew that you had a skill. So
yeah, I've just
choose
never
a-
used it.
I know. So I was like, oh my gosh, she's performing. We can do the thing now. Okay, so your options are: they want to see more of your art. They're affected by the emotion you wanted to convey. They look up to you, which is a +1 ongoing with the audience during the scene, or their attention is fixed entirely on you throughout your performance. So essentially, what kind of vibe do you want to leave behind?
She wants to leave behind the vibe of, this is a mover and shaker. She is incredibly talented and incredibly artistic, and if you don't let her perform here, she is going to make a huge headline somewhere else. This is someone you want on your bill.
Now, are you leaning more towards the, like, this person is a natural at show business, or this person is a hyper-skilled, what's the word, ingenue?
Probably a natural at show business. Clara is sadly not young enough to be an ingenue any longer, and she knows that. But she also knows that being hyper skilled at show business, like, she is entertaining and funny and still very pretty and still very talented. It's this is somebody whose talent will last, that isn't going to burn out at like 22 and then suddenly isn't worth it anymore. She knows what she's doing. She's going to be good for business and good for audiences and is genuinely talented.
Okay. And she shows up on time and she only gets really drunk at the end of the show.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I don't see why that shouldn't work. No, I don't. I can't think of any reasons why that shouldn't work, and that sounds super fun. So okay, so once or twice a week, Clara is going to have a show at the depressingly early o'clock show at the Copa Room in the Sands.
And when they ask her about it, it's basically her going, "We're looking at starting a show in town anyway. I don't want to get rusty. I'm not just here for business. I'm a performer. If I can do something that isn't in the evenings when our show is going to be, and that helps me meet people and helps me see who else wants employment and who else isn't talented in the city, it's great." So that's her excuse as to why somebody this talented just wants an afternoon slot.
Okay. You are given the traditional hyper-aggressive warnings about poaching staff.
Of course.
But...
Well, we don't know where the show is happening yet. Of course I wouldn't poach staff, but if you all need another performance here, you're the first person that I'm working with.
Okay.
Best Clara smile of, "You want me." And I also have object of desire.
Oh yeah, you do.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to remember. I knew you had a thing that really...
Yep.
Okay. So, at what point do you kind of want your object of desire to really flare up?
Probably when she's if she can figure out who is close to Clamenza. She wants one of his people, if not himself, to very, very interested.
Okay. So you are hoping that Clamenza will come to your afternoon show? I'm just trying to get things lined up here in my head.
Yeah, she is. I'm actually, as I think through it more, I think the head of booking for the Sands, that's who she's really turning it on with, because she wants that person to tell the people that matter, "Oh no, you have to see her."
Okay. So you're kind of your shining internal self, your you're essentially that nascent cult leader sort of thing you're really letting that fly with that. Okay, so roll object of desire.
Yep.
So that's a straight die roll.
Ooh, 6.
Okay. Well, good news, bad news. You didn't really grab onto them too hard, but also you did not turn them into an extremely unhealthily interested stalker.
Yes.
So, they won't dream about you, but on the other hand, they won't try to turn your skin into clothes.
Cool.
So it's kind of a up and down.
Yeah.
But you do your job well. So, yeah. So Clara has a show.
Yep.
Let's say the 5th, tomorrow, is the first one. It's essentially a non-existent time slot that they made to entertain you.
Sounds good.
So, and I'm just...
She would want Matthew and Bethany there and be like, basically, keep your eyes open as possible. We've no clue. Nobody might be in the audience. It might be very boring, but both of you tend to be more aware than I am. And even if some of his people are there and he is not, it's a start to make connections.
Yes. Matthew will say that he's not interested in making a connection with him there, because his idea was to get him buttered up by getting people to him there. So that would probably be, if we end up seeing him, that's when I would do the influential friends role with the helping assistance from Clara. Does that work?
Okay. Yes. So what we'll do is, Clara, what did you get on your artistic talent roll?
12.
12. Okay. So you did a solid show. You did not recreate the stage show from the ground up. It was not
earth moving, but it was good.
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
solid.
It was solid. It was respectable. It was everything was correct. And so, what did you do? Did you do you do some song, you do some dance? What was the show, kind of in broad strokes?
Songs and patter. It's I'm an East Coast girl out here on the West Coast, and it's so dry. I guess I just need another martini,
Okay.
She knows the crowd at the Sands. It is a woman's version of the Rat Pack. I'm gonna sing and entertain you and forget some of the lyrics because I'm slightly drunk, and then make fun of myself about it and show a little too much leg, and then suddenly dance with a flourish at the end, showing no, I'm still actually in control. I'm very good. You're just very entertained because I am that likable, and these are the songs you all know, and we're just having a nice afternoon together because it is afternoon, and that's when you start drinking in the desert, right?
Okay. That sounds fun to me. I think that works great. What Clara notices is that some of the frighteningly big names that are playing at the Sands stick their nose in for like 3 minutes. Like it's not enough. I mean, it's a new show.
Yeah.
So it's every so often it's kind of like, and so it's, they're not as aggressive about keeping the doors shut. So every so often you'll see the slice of light of the back door open, however much of a social gaffe it is to open the theater doors while there's a performance. You'll see that slice of light and you'll look in and you'll be like, is that who I think it is? And they'll kind of stand in the back for half a song and then they'll leave. It's performers sticking their nose in on other performers. But generally you're well regarded. The booking agent, the scheduling agent, says you got a couple of asks about whether or not you're going to perform again. So you kind of get that like, all right, I like the way that you get positive response. I like the way that Lark, you want to do this again. I don't know, on Thursday, want to see how it goes. Same time slot. We can't give you the evenings because fucking Frank Sinatra's here. Yeah. Sorry.
She's busy anyway, she says.
Yeah. So yeah, it works. And so, yeah, I mean, if you're willing to, I think that part of the plan works.
Cool.
Clara
she
has
absolutely takes the next booking. She likes performing. That's her type. She's the artist. She hasn't gotten to perform pretty much our entire campaign. So getting a few weird afternoon bookings is genuinely enjoyable to her.
Yeah. And is Clara down any stability?
I don't think so, actually.
Okay.
So,
well, if you are, regain.
One.
Okay, regain that.
Cool.
You're an artist. You got to art.
Yes.
That's always good for the soul. Okay, so a couple of days pass, and now we're gonna try to, get someone big to drop the Van Horst name for Mr. Clamenza. Is that?
Yeah, basically, what we want is for Mr. Clamenza to create a situation where a big name that Mr. Clamenza likes will give him some kind of special treatment in the name of the Van Horsts.
Okay.
We are basically giving a fancy gift before going and being like, oh, we just happened to run into you at the fights that we also go to. Teedlee.
Yes.
What a coincidence.
Yeah.
Because though the logical route is to go through his middlemen, pride is a vice.
It is super. It's a big vice.
So do you want me to roll now, or do I have any bonuses from our previous actions?
I'm going to say that Clara is going to give you a +2.
Okay.
Because she succeeded at several roles. The role play was correct. Like, I feel like that little bit with Clara is adequate for a high quality, like, assist other role in this circumstance.
Well, that fell on the ground, so I'm going to get a different die. But I got one of them, which is 8.
It's a good start.
Roll normally. Yes. So that is an 8 and a 9. And then I think friends in high places is plus my charisma, right?
My God, it has to be.
Influential friends, yes, it's plus charisma. I just want to know what the full. I know that it's already like at the thing, but the full thing is a 20.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess that's okay.
You know.
So, I guess. I mean, do you want to go with Frank Sinatra, Mr. Rolled a 20?
I mean, I would go with whoever his favorite person is. So it tells me a little bit also
Come
about
on,
who he
he's
is.
an East Coast Italian. It's Frank Sinatra.
Then it's
like,
Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, he's Catholic and he loves Frank Sinatra. Like, these are laws. And so what happens is it's really subtle, which is perfect. So the way this goes is this guy's sitting at one of these tables where all the chairs are facing the stage. So it's essentially the front of the table is empty. And what happens is that Frank sits down next to this guy before the show, like 2 minutes before, the Frank Sinatra. And he sits down and he like talks to the guy for a couple of seconds and smacks him on the shoulder and is Frank fucking Sinatra. He's in his prime. Like he is the elemental form of Frank Sinatra at this day and age. And he says a couple things to him, laughs a little bit. He has a glass full of whatever he prefers on the rocks that he walks up with, sits down, talks, has a drink, clinks the drink, leans in, says something, and you watch the color drain out of Clamenza's face. Like that, just kind of like, oh, okay. But Frank clearly has no idea what the hell's going on. Like this was just saying, like, this was Clara and you pulling a couple favors and saying, hey, look, I'd appreciate it if, Frank Sinatra would be willing to take a whole 120 seconds out of his life and do this and say this. It's not violent. It's not anything like that. It's just kind of, we wouldn't mind if he dropped a name. And, it seemed to work.
Since we, with the amount that we got, can we be there so we can raise our glasses in a little toast?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Now, here's the problem.
Yes.
In your head, you said like, hi, we'd like to be friends with you.
Oh, no, it's a threat too.
Okay. Because I was going to say, in Clamenza's head, what he just heard was the Lannisters send their regards.
I mean, the entire point of this is to let him know that we are powerful, that we could have, I mean, whether or not we could have, but like, we could have sent an assassin to murder your ass. Instead, we sent you Frank Sinatra to pal around with you. This is the choice that we made because we have the power over if you want to be happy or sad.
Yes.
Like that is the goal of setting up all of this so that when we meet at the fights, we have the higher footing.
Yes.
These people are terrible. These people are the worst.
I know that like I haven't said many things I've just been enjoying, but there was the point where I was like, if somebody tries to go through middle management, Bethany's gonna be mad about it. The person who has no segregation, she's like, oh, we're way better than that.
Yeah, like these are people who like looked at literal gods and were like, we can do better.
Yeah. We don't talk to secretaries we don't own.
And so like that's sort of the idea. So like yes, the implicit threat is certainly on purpose as well. It's just that we aren't actively attacking.
Okay. The look on his face is complex. As you could easily imagine, that someone who gets told the Lannister sends their regards over dinner is probably going to have a lot of feelings all happening all at once. And he has all of them. He also has a couple of extra drinks. His intake does go up. He doesn't look angry, but definitely it's that one of those like, I have to go home and do a whole bunch of like political math. Like I need to go get my yarn and I need to start putting some extra yarn lines on my board because I need to put new fucking names up here because they had a bullseye on their face 72 hours ago and now apparently they know Frank fucking Sinatra. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think
he's
that
wrong-footed.
Yeah, which is the goal. Because you want him to be off balance when we like actually meet him, which is also why I didn't want to do this at the actual his night off, because then there's an aspect of like we are in a setting where he is, I don't want to say relaxed, because obviously if we just sat down next to him, like he wouldn't necessarily be relaxed, but I want time for this to percolate while we find where the fights are, and then that's when we interact.
Well, you guys are, I mean, I have no reason to believe that people of your wealth and standing would be unable to find out where the illegal fist fights are. Especially since you've already gone into the high rollers room at the Tropicana multiple times now and spent, half of a prince's fortune.
Teaching our sister to play poker.
Teaching your sister how to play poker the hard way. And then you've also got a couple of names. So yeah, you could probably be like, where's a man got to go to see some old-fashioned action in this town? Or, whatever the barely code phrase way to ask where the illegal fights are. Now, as of course is tradition, we're going to take a quick break in a few minutes, but I want to ask you a question before we do that, because this is super duper important. Are you bringing David? And if you are you letting him fight?
Does he want to?
It's fucking David.
Yes, he wants to.
He
wants to murder all of them. Are we prepared to deal with the fact that if we let David go in the ring, other people will be dead?
That's my question, actually, would be, I would need to know whether or not we would have problems if death happened.
I feel like showing them that our attack dog is that fucking lethal.
Yeah, no, like that would, because I'm all about it. Like my basic thing is like, do we have, like, is it a fine, or is it like we get kicked out of the fighting?
I think a lot of that. Now, admittedly, you haven't been to a lot of illegal fights.
Yeah,
so,
that's why it's like it's hard to know.
Probably it wouldn't be a huge problem. I mean, because this feels to the Van Horsts like you bring expendable people and you knock them against each other. It's like the good luck crack your eggs after Easter thing. So it probably, as long as it doesn't look like he. To steal a term, frenzied. If he just punches a dude in the face and knocks his frontal lobe into his ear, that's just a thing that happens. If he freaks out and pounds the guy into mush while someone's trying to stop the fight, that's a real different sell.
So what I would say is, one, Clara's point of letting everyone know that our attack dog is the scariest attack dog is the best option. And then also in the sense of like how Matthew, a theme that I'm going with this game is control, I guess. Our attack dog, AKA Great Driver David, was deprived of violence last time that he was with us. And he looked real upset about it.
Yes. To have some recreational violence time.
Yeah, like if you don't take your terrifying attack dog for walkies, there are problems.
Yeah.
You gotta give them enrichment activities. You can't make a war machine and then be like,
nah,
just sit over here, it's fine. Nah.
Well, it's good to know that Matthew's ready to be a parent.
Thank you.
Oh my Lord. Well, I think we're ready to go to a fight club. Because I really don't have anything else to fucking say aside from oh Lord. So So please feed and water your Davids. It's important. They need exercise. Davids are outdoor creatures. They do need a big yard. All right. So, folks, what we're going to do is we're going to take our usual, 5-minute break here in the middle of our time, and then we're going to roll into an illegal fight club in Las Vegas in 1957 in the world of KULT. And we are now taking odds as to whether or not there will be something non-human in the ring that isn't David. So we'll see you in a minute, and we'll all find out together. Thanks a lot. Yes. Okay. So, I said that I had one question, and it was clearly false. I have a second question, or maybe even a third now. We need to. How are we telling David that he's going to a fight? And are you giving him a choice, or are you giving him an order?
My thought would be choice. It's we're going to this. If you would like to participate, we'll support you, but we're never going to tell you to go back in there if you don't want to.
I'm going to give it as a choice, but I won't word it that way.
Yeah,
But Clara can totally word it that way, and that makes sense.
Yeah, Matthew's in charge. He's probably.
But he's going to basically say, this is where we are going. David, from our experience, will usually say, do you should I come with, or am I coming with you, or something like that. And Matthew will respond to that query as, you certainly can. Would you like to fight?
The answer is obviously yes. But there is an emotional journey that that all of you recognize, which is the same kind of emotional journey that Clara does whenever Matthew brings her a new bag of heroin. It's regrettably, he is clearly expressing some form of at least emotional addiction to combat, or maybe adrenaline, or, maybe he understands the world better when it defines itself all the way down to a simple matter of conflict, and that's a place where his Korean War veteran mind is most comfortable, But either way, he'll happily fight. So he does excuse himself, and apparently he goes and changes. And he comes out with a small bag now. I think it's probably actually a full-sized handkerchief that's wrapped around something. Change of clothes. He explains.
Always appropriate. Matthew clearly treats it the same way that he does the heroin, which is to say, as a beneficial thing. There is no shame in how he treats the way that David reacts. It's very much an encouragement of this addiction, essentially. And that's sort of almost how when he says would you like to fight, it's very much sort of the thing of would you like a drink? There is a casualness to how he is treating violence when it comes to David that is definitely purposeful, because the more casual he can make violence for David, the less likely it is that it will, in his mind, the less likely it is that it will be a problem if David has to do violence for him.
That's so gross.
It's super gross. I'm gonna say right now, it is very gross. I told everybody that as Matthew heals, he will get back into his more normal self, and this is what happens when he is more in his normal self. I'm sorry to everyone.
This is what happens when you're raised by Momster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you
She'd be proud.
He would be proud.
Yeah.
Also, very quickly, since some days passed and much mingling, could Clara have gotten a decent to better supply? She's been back to the parties and she's mingling with the right people and is trying to ensure that she has a steady supply now.
you have enough for now.
Okay.
I don't want to deny myself the joy of Clara running out of drugs.
That's fine.
From a purely selfish perspective. I don't want to. Yes, I don't want to deny myself that. So
enough for now means she's going to use before they go, just to make certain she's in the right headspace.
Okay. So you
kind of looks to Matthew though and uses the new stuff, the new needles he got her, and asks like a gentle permission. He goes, "Can we wait a minute so I can take?"
Of course.
I'll be quick.
Yeah, do you need anything?
No, thank you.
Of course. He'll like have a drink while he waits.
Yeah. She kind of like putting on her lipstick now in the corner.
And just like now like a really gross cover version of Beautiful Tonight by Eric Clapton is playing in my head.
Yeah.
So
yep. So
all right. Well, I guess that happens while David goes into his room and
mm-hmm.
packs whatever he apparently thinks he needs for a fucking illegal fight. Apparently he already has a list for that. Yeah, and he comes out, and so he's ready. Clara's arguably ready. How is Bethany? Does Bethany want to do anything beforehand?
No, I don't think so. I think she's okay.
Bethany takes the interval to have some snacks.
Yeah, like I don't know. She's gotten to eat for the first time since they hit Vegas. She's
I know.
Having a drink and like eating food and enjoying the fact that she can have a drink and not immediately lose control of everything because she actually has food in her stomach, you know.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
And her brain actually has like recent calories to lubricate.
Yeah, no, many things where she is quietly enjoying how well she's doing. Essentially.
Yeah.
And in a fully enjoying it, and somewhere I'm sure in the back of her mind is she's fully enjoying it because it will not last. And also the like something's gonna fuck this up, or I will do something eventually and all of this will go away. So I'm just going to like quietly, gently enjoy this while it's happening.
Yeah, because you can't be Clara's sister and not know that a crash is coming, huh?
Oh, it's definitely coming. Yeah, there's no way. And all of, you know, Bethany's gonna see something weird or go to another dimension. Who knows? Like some terrible thing is going to happen. So right now it's nice. And so she's just gently enjoying it and not pushing too hard into any one thing either. Like she's not poking the bubble to see when it pops. She's letting it do that on its own.
Okay. Well, the fights are held. Where would we hold illegal fights? Where do you guys think the fights are being held?
A warehouse?
Yeah.
A warehouse? Yeah. Some sort of yeah, I like that. Good idea. What it is that it is a warehouse. However, the so you've got the warehouse and then you've got a small street flirting with the definition of alley, and then on the other side of this alley is a restaurant. It's not an all-night diner, but it's very much kind of a, you know, such and such as fine Italian cuisine, sort of kind of like a, you know, not quite a family restaurant, but definitely kind of it's a local joint. And so you go into the restaurant, you say the right words, you know, for the special table, or if there's anything back by the kitchen or anything like that, and you're let through, and everybody knows it's the seduction, you know, it's the art of being transgressive. It's the, you know, the flirtation of a shared secret that is half the fun. And they say, of course we have some seats, you know, of course it's preposterous because this is 50, 60 years before the idea of sitting anywhere near the kitchen being a good thing. So if someone who's clearly well dressed and frankly, regrettably, clearly white asks for a seat near the kitchen, you know, that's obviously a code phrase because that's never going to happen in the real world. So you are brought down a side room through near the kitchen. You don't actually have to go through the kitchen. The kitchen looks exactly like you would imagine a kitchen in 1957 looks like. Everyone there is tired. Everyone there is mean. And you are let out the back. And I don't want to say that it's perfunctory because it's not, but it's a very simple. Clearly, the people that work in this restaurant know what's happening behind the restaurant, but they are literally only involved to be a tube with some camouflage. So you guys travel, you're, you know, right over there, knock on the door. There's a guy who looks like a bodyguard, who looks like a door guy, you know, leaning against a door, and he waves with his chin. The waiter that walked you back and gives him a little like, hi, yep, okay. And you guys walk across the street into the warehouse of death. Dun dun dun. Mm. So it's a warehouse. It has been cleared out. So what you have at this point now is you walk in the door and immediately you can hear some amount of hubbub. But it's baffled, which is really smart. So it's kind of like, okay, these people seem to be professional, you know, air quotes professionals, because what they've done is they've baffled the lighting. So there is a row of stuff between the door and where all the lights are on. So when you open the door, there's not that big cartoonish splash of old-fashioned filament bulbs throwing fire down into the desert night. So that's very smart. And when you guys go around, it's an illegal fighting ring. It's a bare knuckle betting ring. There's a there's a chalkboard on an easel that looks like it probably was in a school whenever it was, or it was at least for a school, with the incomprehensible hieroglyphics of a betting chart, mm-hmm. with some names and kind of all of those ratios and all of that. I want to say there's probably a solid 50 or 60 people here. So it's not a small thing. It's clearly somewhat invite only. It's not you bet that there's probably something bigger somewhere else. Maybe this is the introductory league or something. You're not certain, but it's hopping. There is money here. There are good clothes here. There are some faces that you recognize. We won't commit to anyone being famous. I will, however, say that at least one senator named Kennedy liked going to the Sands in the 50s. So feel free to make any deductions that I absolutely didn't say if you'd like. And what you have right now are two guys, and they are beating the hell out of each other. They are absolutely pounding each other to hamburger. It's two large, muscled guys, kind of that classic Midwest corn-fed, beef-fed, pasture-raised ranch hand sort of look, and they are beating the hell out of each other. If this was a real boxing match, it would have been stopped a while ago. You know, one guy has none of you know what an uncanny valley is because no one's invented it yet, but you are getting an uncanny valley response from one of the boxers because his cheekbone has been so thoroughly crushed that it's fucking with the profile of his face. Like, this side of his face is kind of giving you a non-human vibe, which, oh my God, it does creep you out for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the other guy, you know, his nose is broken. It's clearly not the first time it's been broken. They're both, you know, you're coming to the end of a fight. So sense in terms of what your sensory impressions, of course, you smell the smell of a fight. So you smell a lot of male sweat. You smell some blood. You smell whatever vaguely industrial smell that the stuff in the warehouse leaves in the air. You smell cigars. You smell a couple of different kinds of booze. You have a bet that at least a little bit of whiskey or brandy or bourbon or something has probably been spilled tonight. There is underneath that a little tang of hospital. So there's probably somebody who's stitching, stitching cheeks and doing all of that. So I'm sure that there's a doctor, or at least someone who's pretending to be a doctor somewhere. So you do kind of get a little bit. Now, Matthew, I mean, you've had some recent experiences with hospitals, and so there is a moment when that disinfectant smell hits your nose, and there is a person who's expecting you to save them. And
I don't know how to do that. Every so often I'm like, I should probably get back to that.
Yeah, in some strange Delphic hospital somewhere.
I'm sure he can wait. Patience is a virtue. It's interesting because until you said the hospital, I was like, oh, it smells like Metropolis.
Oh, geez. I mean, Matthew can take that.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Well, I want to, as we're walking in and kind of settling in, and I would like to enhanced awareness.
Okay.
Yeah, because Claire's curious.
Bethany, how about you roll your sixth sense too?
Oh, yes.
While we walk into a thing that's critical.
Before we get to a place.
Ooh. Good.
Sorry, you go first.
Oh, I got a 16 plus 3 because it's plus soul, so 19.
Prime and Nidley. Okay.
Yeah.
I got a 14 with plus soul for Bethany's sixth sense, so I get 2 holds essentially.
Okay. Do you want to use either of them right now?
No.
Okay.
I would like to act first in a threatening situation towards the siblings, should it arise, as where I am.
Yeah. Well, there's really nothing in that move option that makes it specifically directed towards you.
Yeah.
So I'm perfectly content with you being able to preempt a danger towards either of your siblings.
Yeah, that's one of those is a hold for that. One of them is for that, and then one of them is on hold to come up if I need it.
Okay. Clara, this is... Have you ever seen someone steal someone else's lines? Or have you ever seen someone perfectly and insultingly ape someone else's stagecraft? Like you've seen someone do Shakespeare, and then the next year you come out and you watch someone else do Shakespeare. And I don't know, for example, King Lear is a shot for shot impersonation of the really good person that did it last year. You're actually that's your first vibe, is a little bit of kind of like a somebody stole somebody else's line sort of vibe. This place is, I mean, it doesn't go anywhere. Like, this isn't a place that's connected to something. You don't believe that you would, I mean, certainly not Metropolis. I can tell you that right now. There is no link to the great city of promise here. But it's like something should be here, but instead something else is. It's a little bit like rolling over a dead animal and seeing that the entire bottom side is covered in maggots. It's definitely like something was here and now it's dead, and now there's something else here and it's rotten, and it's definitely absolutely kind of in a woo true reality, supernatural power sort of way.
Okay.
You don't want to commit all the way to like a word like temple, but this is a place that has been bathed in the power of something, and then that something isn't here anymore, and now something else is essentially feasting on the offerings that were left behind. So you that's kind of the vibe. You get a vibe like someone has been cracking open the urns and eating the honey and the bread and the meat inside them. And it should feel gross. Like that is absolutely like something awful. But it's also like violent. Like it's not it's not like we are going to war. It's not nobility. It's not anything else. It's just the joy of conflict. There's no like it's like everyone here is dressing up and pretending that they're not here to watch grown men try to kill each other. Like this is all polish on a very bloody primal thing.
As they're walking, she slightly stops both of them and grabs their hands as she was looking around. This place used to be something, but it's not anymore. It used to be something special, something of the truth, but it's not now. They built something else on top of it. If I was grabbing at very, very loose guesses, maybe it was something when Bertrand and the Royal Phoenix Society was operating, and maybe Clamenza hates us because we made that power fall. I'm probably wrong, but there's something wrong here now, and there's not the power there was. Just thought you should know.
So Matthew will squeeze the hand back. I'm gonna use magical intuition.
Okay, go for it. Yeah, this is absolutely a time to throw out all of your sensory apparatuses? Whatever.
That is a 13. So that's 2, I think. One which I will put in my back pocket.
Okay.
And the other one is to look where the illusion is weakest.
Well, I don't want to say that it's not weak, because it's not a bridgehead. I'll say that. This is not a place where in its current state you could expect to end up somewhere else.
Yay.
However, if you beat people to death in this warehouse for long enough, you are fairly certain that you would end up somewhere red hot and metallic.
Well, we have, I'm not going to say that this is a good thing, but I'm just going to put out there that now we know how to help Papa. We wanted to know where there would be another place for us to get there.
Ooh.
Now
that's not what I was thinking of, but I ain't mad about it.
I mean, I'm just saying, if you tell me that all I need to do is beat enough people to death in one area to get to Inferno, when we've previously had situations.
My house.
So like Matthew will just
welcome back, Matthew Van Horst. I'm glad you're feeling better. It's good to see that you're rested.
Look.
Oh.
So
just buy new property, not on the grounds of the house back in Pittsburgh, and we're all good.
Yeah, we're all solid. So Matthew will kind of like look around, and he will kind of nod to what Clara says. And we'll say, there are things here that are nascent that could be pushed in a direction that might help us in the future. Not something to talk. Well, no, he's more talking about the fact that you can. Sorry, my little doorbell's going off. So basically, he's more referring to the fact that like if we wanted to create a rip, we could talk about that later. But he's not going to be like, we can go to Inferno in like public.
Yeah.
So he's like gonna just kind of couch this in some words, and we're gonna talk about it later at home when we're drinking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, sassy throwaway line aside, the vibe here is a very David vibe.
Oh, it's so David.
Like
it's
they're
so David.
like the oscilloscopes are definitely matching up.
That's also good to know, just because, like, I mean, if we're going to need a lot of people beaten to death, I'm just saying.
Bring a David.
Bring a David. The other question that I had was, are there a lot of, like, I'm assuming that the people here are mainly men, but are there enough women that like that Clara and Bethany do not stand out as like the only women? Because that's going to see how on edge Matthew is.
Ooh, they are not the only women.
Okay, that's good.
I'm gonna say it's only maybe 10 to 20% women. Like clearly, there's a significant like gender ratio indifference. And about
that.
How
many of the women look like prostitutes?
Yeah. I was gonna say about half of the ladies that are here look like they're at work.
Okay.
And like are they explicitly prostitutes? Are they absolutely here as arm candy and companionship, you know, and that role? Absolutely. You
Yes.
know, where does sex work and where does a very unpleasant financially based relationship, you know, it's there. A lot of them are kind of in that uncomfortable gray area. There are a couple of women that are clearly here with their man, and you think you see maybe, you know, a couple or three other ones. There's an older couple that kind of give you that old bunny vibe. So they're probably in their mid 50s, early 60s, and they definitely remind you of Daddy. They remind you of Papa Van Horst, because they've kind of got that like, we've been rich since forever, and we're just totally comfortable in the fact that we have like a really unreasonable amount of money, influence, and power. And we are absolutely here for the express purpose of watching people who are worth less than us beat themselves to death.
I'm going to say that definitely reassures Matthew, because like if you want to like figure, like if you just looked at the group of them and you wanted to like figure out where they fell in, like that sort of old money, we're here to enjoy the lessers vibe is the vibe that like Bethany and Clara would probably give off. And so like there's that aspect of like protection that comes with that I think makes him relax a little bit. Because I think that like if they were like the only ones there, he'd be much more sort of on edge. But like in a way, seeing that like old couple actually really kind of cements like, okay, there are our people here as much as it is a new setting for the Van Horsts themselves.
Yeah. And you know, in the first few minutes they do look over and they see you, and it does seem that like game recognized game.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the presumably husband, until we find out otherwise, you know, the male of the couple does kind of give you the
Yeah.
You know, the cup raise that says I see you, you see me, and you know, Matthew, all three of you, frankly, recognize that as the like, I'm not going to come over to you because clearly I'm more established in this social space, but I am giving you permission to approach me and begin the conversation without any extra form of ingratiation.
Yeah, I'll put that in the back pocket.
I want to make sure that I tell you guys everything.
Mhm.
Yes, Clamenza is here. So, what do you like? Clamenza, I mean, he is not like if you say like mob boss, if you say mafia don, you know, there's a couple of people that immediately come to mind. I mean, you get a, you know, Marlon Brando probably shows up in the mind of 50% of America when you say, you know, mob boss. He's not classy. There's that air of refinement. There's that posture where someone has worn a suit 7 days a week for 50 years and he hasn't. Like, there's definitely a time in his life where he wore a t-shirt, or you know, at least not a suit. He's in his mid 30s, maybe in his 40s, so he's a little young to really be given a lot of power. But he's got the bridge of his nose up here has that swell, not of a Roman nose, not of a perfectly fine nose like that, but I'm talking about it's got that swell where it's been broken 3 or 4 times, where it hasn't been like, you know, horizontally smeared, but where someone's got him right here and cracked that bone, so he's built up kind of that osseous scarring. You would not have presumed him to be a mob boss if somebody has it. He looks like a second lieutenant in the mafia. He has his eyes are a little shifty, or maybe not shifty. He looks a little bit too ready to go. You know, it looks like if something went wrong, he wouldn't be like, I'm going to step away from this and let people handle this because I am above this, because I am a leader of men here. He looks like the kind of guy that would fucking glass you with a bottle if something got weird. And so he does not feel like your kind of people, because he would happily do the kind of things that you would pay someone to do.
So tell me if I'm incorrect in this sort of assessment, but it almost feels like, and this is a weird way of putting it, like,
go for it.
It feels like mafia new money.
Yes.
Right? Like,
absolutely. Good read. Good job.
Okay, because like that's sort of the feeling that like Matthew's got. He's like, this is someone who is in power. They have a strong hold on power, but they are new to living in that power, right? Like there's the idea of like you have been raised in the power, and then there's the idea that you have clawed the power down into yourself, and that takes time to settle in. And so like that's an interesting aspect there, and he definitely is going to take note of that.
That was so accurate of a read that I'm going to give you a +2 to put in your back pocket.
Oh, thanks.
That when you are interacting with him on a social level for this scene, that you read him like a fucking book. And that was so accurate of a read and so like on theme that you have a +2 if you want to do a social with him, as long as you kind of
that's great
incorporate that insight into that discussion.
Cool. So one of the things that I think that Matthew's at least going to look first for is, where do you go if you've got a fighter? Because we have one.
Well, has anyone checked on David?
Checking on David.
David is still standing kind of like at the entrance, like the little hairpin turn. And he is like he has his change of clothes or his extra shirt or whatever he brought with him kind of like tucked like here, almost like a delivery, like a flat pack. but he's smiling, and I don't mean like he's smiling at a dirty joke where he's kind of like, okay, that was cute. He's not smiling like, oh man, I love pastrami on rye. He is smiling like a kid the day they opened Disneyland. He is smiling like the way Clara smiled the first time she saw a stage curtain raise. You know, it's that like, oh, my calling, my purpose, like my joyeux, like everything, like this is, you know, like, yeah, it's just, and all of the age that his trauma and his experiences have piled on him washes away. And it is that moment where how young he is so painfully clear. And it just, you know, you can see underneath it, like, you know, the 18-year-old boy, the youth that he was when he went to Korea to get broken and turned into whatever he's maybe becoming. But he's just grinning like one side, like it's a crooked grin, and he's kind of got you know, first glance, he looks super happy. Second glance, he's not okay because his pupils are super dilated, and you are fairly certain that David is also sporting an erection. And there's like a flush to his cheeks, like it's like, oh look, kid at Disneyland, like, oh no, look, serial murder at an unlocked door. Like
especially because she hasn't gotten to do a ton yet, and also because Matthew has been 100% passing this off. And let's keep up that theme. He's like, Bethany, why don't you go get David?
Sure, yes. So yes, Bethany will look at Matthew and be like, okay, find out where he's supposed to be. To like pass off the like, please go talk to the people, and figure out where I'm supposed to bring him. And then we'll go like to gently guide David to wherever that is and be like, you know, have a nice time. Like
break a leg out there, kid.
Well, just, you know, it's way more of a like, enjoy yourself, we're gonna bet on you, have fun, like.
Okay. And now, like, as I've said, you guys are shaping your monster.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, take a moment and consider that this is going to be one of those like formative monster shaping experiences. So I mean, do you want to say, go have fun, we're going to make a profit off of you? Like, is that
They're Van Horsts?
I'm
far up to you.
Far be it from me to judge a Van Horst.
That's how she knows how to be supportive. Like, we're investing in you. We believe in you is essentially what that means. Is like, we believe that you will win. We believe that you will win so much, we will put our money on that. And even though we have a bunch, like, that matters right now because we're putting it on you. You're an investment that we are making. We believe in your ability to do this. We also would like you to enjoy this time because you haven't gotten to do it. And yeah, currently it's far more of a like a thing that she feels like is a thing that seems supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not the best, but it is also in the same vein, and this is awful. But in the same vein of back in season 1, the like when he noticed Bethany was super freaked out about going into the hospital to see Izzy and was like, she'll be glad that you're there. The like, I know what you're seeing, I know what you're going through. I'm gonna say very little to like mean a thing. It is in that same style, essentially, to be like, go get him, kid. Like,
Yeah.
it's much more of a like, I see where you are. I see that this is a thing that you desperately kind of want. I want to say that from us, this is okay. We would not have brought you if it was not okay. We support this so much, we'll put money into that. Like, that's the Van Horst way.
Oh, it's horrible, but it's absolutely perfect.
So yes, so that's our monster.
Yeah. Okay. And so Matthew, presumably with Clara on the arm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't weird. It's fine.
Okay.
Showing off, we are proper, elegant Van Horsts, and we can watch people die for money. And we look
okay.
Fine, we brought a killer.
Mm-hmm.
We won't die.
We brought our own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I brought my own bottle.
Mm-hmm.
The person that would probably be easiest is the guy that's standing next to the betting board.
Okay.
Because that's one of those like, okay, betting board is necessary for this process. The guy standing next to it writing on it is clearly allowed to write on the fucking betting board. I bet you this guy's got an in. So
yeah, I will, like, Matthew basically will walk up with Clara. He'll take a look at the bets and the odds first.
okay.
It doesn't really matter what they are because we know that we're going to win any fight that David's in. But like, he looks at them, and then he will look at the guy, and say, and like when there's like a moment between him writing, like he's not going to just interrupt that. So here's is there a moment, or do I have to like wait for a while?
Well, we get to write the scene, so we make a moment.
Okay.
So the fight that you guys walked in on ends with one of these combatants / gladiators kind of collapsing to the ground a bit too bonelessly, where he is under the arm, fireman carried out, and then what you see there is that there's kind of a back area that was probably used to be the lunchroom or a bathroom or a locker room or just kind of that employee area of a warehouse, and he's being taken back there, and when the door opens and somebody comes out to kind of meet them halfway, clearly what you see is someone who is a doctor or at the very least kind of a fight medic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's got his sleeves rolled up to mid elbow, and it looks like he's got some basic medical / surgical apparatus tucked into his pocket, and he's got more than one person's blood on him. So that's apparently where you go when you're beat the hell out of. And so, but what has happened is that this guy who fell over fairly bonelessly apparently vomited a bit, or, so there is a mop and bucket now being applied. They're not getting it to restaurant quality. The health department would not approve of the job they're doing, but they are getting it back to, we can have a fight on this level. So there's a few minutes between the next fight, and we're going to have the conversation quickly, but the conversation that you have is longer because this guy is taking money, acknowledging things, hearing something else. A guy runs out, whispers in his ear, he says, "No shit," and he like scrapes off one of the bet ratios and updates it, now accepting bets for fight number 5,
So here's the question. Are people using their names? Are they using fake names?
You presume that they're using fake names, at least for the boxers. Let's call them boxers for ease of use.
I mean more the bettors.
Oh, absolutely not. No one is using names.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
This guy seems to have an unlimited back pocket full of words like buddy and pal. But also, you don't get to be the betting manager at a mob-run like fight club without having almost a perfect recall for faces and bets.
Yep.
So I mean, but you hire people like this. You recognize this. You've met some of your like line line managers and shop managers who literally have like their entire week's production numbers just stored in their head.
Yep.
You know, and they can rattle off where 25 guys are in the entire steel mill. Like they know where everybody in their area is at any given moment. And this seems to be that guy that has that kind of brain, except he works for the mob. So
Matthew will basically introduce himself via way of money as opposed to like a name.
Absolutely.
Like he'll obviously like give a appropriate amount for just like, hey, I'm going to take a moment of your time to the bookie and basically be like, we're here with a fighter and we're interested in doing putting on bets. Where should we take our fighter?
His initial response is a little bit like, okay, so he is surprised that someone is bringing this to him, but he has a flow chart for this.
Yes.
So it's kind of that like, oh, and you can almost watch him going through his head for that set of if-then, for that if-then cascade. He finds it, and he actually turns and he looks at Clamenza and like gives a kind of like a, like, I'm escalating my call sort of thing. And Clamenza looks at you guys and like shakes his fucking head. and not that like I'm mad sort of way, but he's like this is like, there ain't enough drugs in this fucking city to deal with this right now. That kind of like.
Clara has a flask. She doesn't have a martini glass in the middle of it. But she raises her flask to him and just gives her most beatific smile.
Okay.
It's the happy to see you, Mr. Clamenza. We're looking forward to doing business.
Yeah. And you definitely watch, like I said, he has a quick face journey. He has a spiritual quest there for a minute where you can absolutely tell that there is a piece of him that goes, I should just have them killed. Like, or I should try to. Like, he definitely has that, like,
it's like, didn't you already try?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's like you watch that face journey where he's just kind of like, if I turn to this guy and tell him to make them go away, they probably could. Maybe. Yeah, but my other assassin is dead because that stuff doesn't stay a secret for 48 hours.
That's why you gotta let it percolate.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, he waves you over, you know, and he's got what is it, a low ball glass, a rocks glass?
Yeah, tumbler. Yep.
Yeah, sorry guys, I don't drink, and when I do, it comes in its own bottle. Yeah, so he takes his tumbler and he kind of he gives it to the guy that's standing next to him, and the guy's just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? You know, it's just. And so once again, it's that, like you said, you said new money. You know, this guy this is, to be super awful and derivative and rude, this dude is a monkey trying to act like a man. He's the Monkey King from Jungle Book, where he has seen all of the motions and he understands all of the words and he has seen all of the rituals and he's trying to do them, but he does not have the foundation of personal presence and respect and authority and repetition of ritual. You know, because what he expected is he expected to hand his glass to the guy standing next to him, and he expected the guy just to take it. Because that's what cool mob bosses do, is they just hand their drink to their second over standing there, and the guy takes it and is happy about it. So, but like, he hands it out, like he passes it, and there's a little bit of like a little bit of hot potato. Yeah. And so that's a thing.
Yep.
But he comes and he meets you halfway, and he's all smiles, but he's definitely he's got the manager smile. He's got that like, hi, something unexpected is happening, and I'm worried it's going to cause a scene. Can I give you free dessert? Like that's he has the will a plate full of lava cake make this go away sort of smile. And he comes over and he says, the Van Horsts. Yeah, old Frankie Blue Eyes friends.
We're so excited to be able to get to talk to you in person, but we actually first wanted to we were just checking here of where we should put our man. And he will gesture to David, who's clearly just having the ball.
Oh yeah. And at this point, David is actually like even breathing a little heavy. Like there's definitely like you can see the swell, this like the rise and lower of his chest. And
Bethany gets to do the gentle shepherding that happens to her so often.
Yeah.
We'll guide you to where you need to be.
This isn't a panic attack.
Yeah.
This is like what's a hype attack? Like what's the opposite of a panic
Too
attack?
Excited.
A manic attack. He's having a manic attack.
Yeah.
And it's not good. And the guy, the bookie kind of looks at Clamenza and gives him that like, you ain't fucking making me say anything about this. And Clamenza says, you know what? Fine. Welcome to Las Vegas. Let's walk him to the back and have the doc give him a once over. Make sure he's fighting fit. And yeah, all right. Yeah. Why not? Why the fuck not, right? Hey, why not? It's a city of gamblers, right? Why should we turn down anything? Come on. And
Mr.
so
Clamenza, we appreciate it so much. I know that we all got off on probably the wrong foot here, but our man hasn't had a chance to fight since we came from out east, so it's good to get his energy out a bit and for us to start over again, maybe.
Of course.
Okay. Somebody roll me an oh god, what's a perception check in KULT?
Read person or observation?
How about like observe a scene?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see now. Act under pressure, keep it together, avoid harm, endure injury, investigate, helping, hindering, read, influence other. Yeah, observe a situation. So plus perception.
Does anyone have a better perception than 0?
I do.
Then y'all should. Y'all should be the ones to roll than me.
I also, it should be Bethany, who hopefully is watching anyway.
I have a +1 in perception.
Go for it.
Yep.
I'm better at reading people, but I will attempt to perceive a thing. Okay, well, I rolled a 15, so that's a 16. Solidly. Let me check to make sure where my negatives are real quick. No, it's not it's those only come at keep it together and disadvantage, and it's neither of those things. So
that was my expectation too. Good.
So
as Clamenza turns, he absolutely makes like questioning eye contact with the older couple.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
But it's not like, what should I do, boss?
Mm-hmm.
It's the like, I fully anticipate that you're about to be super duper pissed off and I can't do anything about it right now.
Interesting.
Sort of thing. It's definitely that like, I'm not entirely in control of this right now and I need you to, and I would really greatly prefer it if you didn't wig the fuck out on me.
Well, we
sort of.
So,
but I feel like we're smooth.
We've missed it.
Been able to watch.
Right, but that's okay because Bethany is gonna grab her siblings before, as they're starting to go back to like with David and the doctor, and be like, somebody should go with David, but one of you should go make nice with the older couple.
Matthew will look at Clara because this is her time to shine, and he's gonna try to work on Clamenza while she works on the older couple.
Yep, I'll go make
it.
it.
So older couple, then Clamenza, and does that mean that Bethany is gonna follow David into the green room?
Yes.
Oh, to
So.
the doctor?
Wait, well, yeah, we can't.
It might just happen. It happens. These
That is
things
the thing that happens.
I
Like,
do
you
kind
guys
of
had-
like that. I do
You
kind of
guys
like
had
that.
horses at home. She's seen it all.
Yeah.
like Bethany did just tell her siblings that somebody had to go make nice, and that was sort of more important.
Mm-hmm.
And
She has been very stable.
and she's been very stable, and she has been gently shepherding David.
Yeah.
So she's gently
for it.
shepherding David.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like, I think that there's a moment after the siblings all split where she realizes what has just happened to her, and she's like gently, "Oh no." But that's where she is.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. At this point, David is easily led. It's essentially
Yeah.
just like, oh, so I have to go back here? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like whatever the list is for whatever it is that I have to do, like I'm gonna go do that thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he does it, super content with that. So you go back and the doctor's there in a different genre. You would absolutely call him a street doc.
Mm-hmm.
He's absolutely a dirty medic.
Mm-hmm.
He's an older guy. He has more than one piece of evidence of addiction. So he's got what are they called? Are they called bourbon bruises? Like when you start getting the broken blood vessels across your cheeks from your extended alcoholism.
Yeah.
He's got the signs of practically lifelong alcoholism. He clearly smokes. Like you can see that two of his fingers are absolutely, he's got that thick nicotine splat around his fingers. His teeth are yellow. He just gives a dirty vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Like his hands are clean. His shirt was clean when he got here. But
Mhm.
this is not a man who lives a sanitary existence. This is not someone who,
Mm-hmm.
this is not your doctor.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go to this guy for anything more complicated than aspirin in a unopened bottle. But he seems to be good at what he's doing.
I said Bethany would go to someone cleaner for that.
So he's
Mm-hmm.
what he's doing is he's sponges and stitches and some gauze, and he's doing something to the guy that got his cheekbone punched in, and you're actually really happy that mostly it's hidden by his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is some grunting and some groaning and some muffled yelps of significant pain, and you are fairly certain you are hearing the wet celery sound of bone and cartilage being moved.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy, you hear him say something like, "Well, you'll never be able to breathe out of that side of your fucking head again, but it'll look right, I guess. All right, get out of here, drink it off like you always do." And like smacks the fighter on the shoulder and like pushes him up. And the guy kind of staggers away, and there's someone else that looks a lot like him with a very worried look on his face, and he's like, "You okay? You okay? You want to go lie down? Like, how you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm okay." It just, this is in many ways, this sort of thing is almost kind of like the masculine version of illegal sex work. This is not saying that sex work is inherently bad. This is the result of the illegality of it, where the danger is heightened and the threat to the people is higher. These are people who are putting their bodies on the line every time they work in an attempt to make money. These are the same threats. Like, they might get the hell beaten out of them. They might be killed for not enough money. They may get sick. They may get dumped, if they prove to be inadequately profitable. And so there's a lot of those same worries in many ways. But the doctor turns around, and he like looks around. Clearly the other fighter is either self-tending or he's already done. And so he gets a rag from a bucket and kind of wipes his hands off, washes most of the blood, and you can see some physical bits of like cartilagely gristle that he kind of like picks, almost like picking a booger off his hands, and kind of says, all right, what do you want? Like, what are you here for? What's going on?
New fighter for tonight.
Really? All right. Well, it ain't you, little lady.
No, it's him.
All right, tough guy, come on over here. And so David walks over, and do you remember the horse barn at home where you guys had the little show ring, like the round show ring? And it wasn't really something that you did. This was more of Papa's thing, but there were, for a little while, there were a couple of show horses there, and it was like the Arabians with the beautiful posture and the super high step, like all of that beautiful like classical horse work. Equestrian there. Jesus, where was that word in my brain for 5 seconds? All of that like classic equestrian stuff, it's there in David. Like he doesn't actually high step, but his posture, the way his neck is, the way he walks, is he's absolutely like good mood thoroughbred, sort of like maybe even like you could even say there's a little sachet there. Like he's definitely like, okay, like this is my jam. And he comes over, and so the guy says, all right, take your shirt off, come on, let me see what you got. And David does, and this is probably the first time that Bethany has seen David in anything other than like a shirt and vest and pants.
Oh, hell yeah.
David has some scars, which probably isn't terribly surprising, being a war veteran. The thing that he does have that is a surprise is he has a tattoo. And he has it across his left pectoral. And it's very simple, but it is a raven. It's like a raven or crow. It's clearly kind of like I don't want to say classic as in Greek, but it's like an old-fashioned design. Like you can clearly see that it's got an archaeological vibe. Maybe it was copied from something, but definitely there's he's got a raven or a crow or something tattooed on his pectoral, and there's a little bit of kind of like maybe Celtic or like Scandinavian knotwork as some this and that around it. This is 57. So tattoos the size of dinner plates are fairly fucking rare. So it's a bit of a shock. And so, that is a takeaway. But when he stands, like whenever this guy checks him out, like he is, I don't want to say he's posing, because he's not posing to be looked at, but this is a creature who accepts the fact that being physically inspected is part of his nature. And so there's a very, it's asexually intimate in the way that this medic, this doctor, checks out David for his health, and kind of, and he's doing some things that are clearly not like medical traditional practices. He's kind of thumping him on the chest and moving his jaw around and feeling around here and feeling his neck and his temples and his nose and his cheekbones, and looking at his hands and kind of like doing a little bit of like how do your fingers feel, and feeling his hands and his wrists and listening to his heart. So whatever those things are, it is clear that David passed with flying colors. The other thing that is interesting to note is that when David undergoes this inspection process, he goes away. he disassociates maybe, or he just goes inside his head, you know, kind of. I don't want to expressly use like an actual psychiatric term.
Yeah.
But he definitely he goes somewhere else in his head, and either that's something that he's either very, very used to this, or this is something that he prefers not to be like existing in his own body for. But the guy says, "All right, you look good, sailor. Look at that big fucking whack on your chest." And David just kind of shrugs, and then, you know, pulls on his undershirt, his t-shirt, you know, his undershirt back on, and tucks it into his pants, because that's what he saw the guys wearing earlier. So, and he very calmly folds up his dress shirt and, like, you know, sets it down. And the guy turns to Bethany and says, "You need to stay around. You got to suck his dick before he fights, or anything like that?"
David, would you like us to keep any of your things with us?
David shakes his head no. And,
then I'll leave him in your capable hands.
Okie dokie.
She'll leave.
And he gives you the look that a fucking chauvinist gives a woman whenever she doesn't appreciate his humor. Okay, so that's where Bethany has been.
Yep.
And the thing is that, like, logically, you taking David's things is the more correct option. Clearly, absolutely, David refused to give Bethany his things to care for, in that, like, she doesn't carry my fucking stuff. That's not how this works. Like, she's not walking around with my spare shirt. What the hell is wrong with you? Not that, like, I don't think Bethany can take care of my clothes for free.
No. It was that was partially definitely a, like, would it make David more comfortable if he knew that his people had his things, or does he want them himself? And also, that's what I'm going to say to this doctor who's being an asshole.
All right. Well, let's talk to Clamenza next.
Okay.
So, Matthew, are you ready to schmooze the Menza?
Oh, he's happy to.
Okay.
You know, while like, you know, it's clear where different people are going. And the thing that Matthew wants to do as this happens is to show that, like, they all have things in hand. Like, there is a look towards Clara, and Clara immediately goes towards the people that Clamenza was just kind of glancing at, right? Like, to clearly to go schmooze them.
Yeah.
You know, Bethany goes, you know, with their person down there, like, everything, like, the way that he is, like, making sure that things are perceived as he's interacting, is that, unlike Clamenza's situation, where he is new to this is him aping other things. When he hands off his highball glass, they take it. And it's easy and it's smooth.
Shots fucking fired.
And, you know, he will smile with ease at Clamenza and say, "I feel like we've gotten off on the wrong foot in the past, but I'm very interested in us becoming good friends. And I'm going to roll an influence other with how that is starting."
Okay.
And it's not so much to influence, it's more that my goal in this conversation is to eventually be able to use my awe-inspiring.
Okay.
So it's more of a first impression that I'm trying to get there. It's not actually like a specific act. So I don't know what you want me to, if it is appropriate for me to roll or not, thinking of it that way. But, like,
let's not go for a roll right now.
Okay.
But I am going to make sure, I'm going to read up on awe-inspiring just for a second to make sure.
Yeah, because that's important.
That it's going to work the way we want it, that we meet our expectations. People around you accept you as their leader and listen to you, take +1. People feel your leadership material and show you respect. Choose one of them in particular who goes along with what you think. or people feel like you're the leader, but one of them tries to challenge you for it. The GM makes a move. So are you attempting to establish dominance over Clamenza?
Yes. And the way that I'm trying to do this is basically, it's not in a way of like, there are multiple ways that you can establish dominance. The way that he is attempting to establish dominance is not, I am trying to actively wrest your power away from you, which is why he's phrasing it the way that he is. The way that he is trying to influence the feel of the situation is, you are currently a big fish in a medium-sized pond. I am a big fish in a big pond. I would like to work with you so that your pond can expand, but I am bigger than you.
Ooh. Okay.
That's the goal.
I love it. Welcome back, Matthew. Holy shit.
Matthew is looking for minions, is what he's really, like, deep down, like, when he's looking at Clamenza, he doesn't see him as, this is an enemy who tried to murder me. He is seeing, this is someone who had the capacity to really almost stop us in our tracks. I want him to work for me. And the aspect of him that is like, that sort of like, he's still not used to being a leader, is what Matthew wants to really tie into that. Because the idea is like, look, if he's not used to being the leader, I'm happy to prop up his leadership with my like history of like being trained for this, as long as in the end, I am the leader that the leader looks towards.
Okay. I dig it.
So that's sort of like the vibe that he is going for. So yeah, that's what he will start with.
Okay.
I'd like, we got off on the wrong foot, but I'd like us to be friends. I think we have many of the same interests.
Okay. He clearly understands that he was involved in multiple attempts to kill you.
Oh yeah.
Like, he doesn't say it, but there's that kind of like, I don't know how many. Matthew probably hasn't talked to a lot of people. Well, actually, you did. You talked to Bertrand. I mean, you guys talked about that a couple times, yeah.
Yeah, we did.
So it's definitely like that, like, hi, we've been life or death. And he's clearly unused to discussing things with people he's marked for death.
Yeah.
So it's the entire conversation, he's a little like, he's not very visibly jumpy, but he has that like, I'm waiting for this to get ugly. Because he's the kind of lowbrow, hands-on guy that if he was standing in front of someone that tried to kill him, he already would have pulled a knife.
Oh yeah.
So he like, his expectation, and it's clear, is that at some point, like this entire conversation, he's expecting Matthew to pull a 38 snub nose.
Oh, totally.
And stick it in his fucking ear. Like, he's waiting this entire time for this to end in outright violence. And so you've got him wrong-footed because he's not inciting it. He's waiting for you to do it, because if he just fucking shoots you, now he's shot his guests.
Yep.
And that's a huge problem. But if you pull a gun, he can have you and your entire family killed right here. Or at least try, because, he doesn't know about the Phoenix Society. So you've got him wrong-footed for a majority of this conversation, because he keeps waiting for you to be like, and now you die. And you don't. So he's like, every time you talk, he's waiting for the punchline, so to speak. And so he's not, he's pretty adept at verbal fencing. Like, he's got social skills, but definitely he keeps waiting for something to happen that isn't going to happen.
Oh no, you go.
No, go.
I was gonna say, I'm trying to remember, what's the name of the fake Bethany?
Demetria.
Demetria. Yeah.
I think that the closest thing to like a pulling of a gun that occurs is like as they're kind of verbally fencing back and forth, and they're talking. I'm not sure what he responds to really with like, because Matthew literally just starts talking business with him, casually as a pal. As if he were like entering into a normal sort of business situation where you're like getting to know someone and trying to do stuff.
Okay.
As they're just kind of like doing that, and he will eventually slip into the conversation. If there's the question that I have is there ever a point where he asks like why he's being so nice or like what he's interested in?
Yes, he does give you a conversational opening.
Yeah.
Or it's essentially kind of like where he said, if we ever met face to face, I probably would have expected this to be a very different conversation.
Well, I feel, and I think that that's where he would drop the thing of, well, I always try to give a compensation when I take assets from someone. It's the only appropriate in merger situations, you see. And since you don't have Demetria anymore, I felt like it would just be appropriate for me to reach out in friendship.
All right, make this dude your bitch roll now.
Okay.
Because my response to that will be entirely determined by that roll.
Yeah.
Because in many ways, you just walked in and been like, a large part of the mafia operation for Las Vegas is now mine. Is this going to be a source of conflict, or are we just going to fucking figure this out?
Oh, yeah, no. Okay, so the big question for this is going to be whether or not I add something to it, which I do, because I got a 13.
Yeah, it's plus charisma.
But it's plus charisma, so that's a 16.
Oh, damn.
So what I like, the thing that I would say is, because I think that the result for if you get a 15 or above, which I was not expecting, is that people in general
people
except
in the
that
scene.
Would it be like basically that like that that is said around someone else who knows what that means?
Okay. What happens is that in the course of this conversation, he apparently seems to go through the process of attempting to have you killed again.
I'm good for that as being like my only
like, I mean, he does not hand you the keys to the castle, clearly.
I don't need that. Like, that's...
But definitely he kind of like moves you from the person who should die into the like person I should be friends with because I can gain value from their friendship, or at least business partnering. And yeah, I mean, that's
all I need. That's literally
like,
all.
That's like a lot of boxes. Like that's a lot of relationship boxes that moved over very quickly. So
that's like that's more than I expected, quite frankly. Like I'm all for that. Like, and there's a lot of
you rolled for God King and you got a 17.
Yeah, that is true. I like, and there's definitely like a sense of like that when things like sort of ticky box over there, like Matthew, because of how he is and because of the way that he views his place in the world, like he never seems to be unfazed by this. Like there never seems to be a point where he seems surprised that the person that he's been trying to murder, or who's been trying to murder him, like is switching over, because that is the persona that he needs to put forth so that people will follow him.
Yeah. The comment that he makes kind of in this conversation is saying something about like leaving money on the table or some sort of like gambling reference, or essentially what he says is, I have realized that killing you is a negative net value proposition. And so, and he kind of says like, we need to talk more about this. We need like, we need to jam, we need to jam. Yeah. Cause that's what the fucking mob guy in 1957 says. He definitely like, this conversation isn't over, but he kind of does that. Like, all right, I'm gonna like not actively attempt to take the life of you and your family.
I think that his response to that is mainly, it's Vegas. I'm sure that both of us are here to come away with our pockets heavier.
And he, and he kind of does it like a yeah, exactly right, yeah, like yeah, okay, good. This guy gets it. This guy gets it. This fucking guy. But you said it absolutely right. He's new money. So, but it is 11 o'clock.
Oh no, the old people though.
Yeah, the old people.
It's true. You're right.
Are we good to roll? Like, are we good to keep going for a little bit, or do we want to? I mean, clearly David's gonna fight next game.
Yeah.
This could be leaving a cliffhanger. Like, I'm pretty sure I know what Clara is going to say going up to them.
Yeah.
And then we could leave it there. But I don't know. Her approaching them might get bad reactions just doing that. I don't know.
I'm here for the cliffhanger.
Yeah, I'm here for the cliffhanger. I want to make sure that we all sort of like all the siblings at least hit at what they were doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it.
So Clara is kind of watching everybody just to make certain that the initial start of their thing doesn't seem to go wrong, though Bethany is behind closed doors. And that slightly worries her. And then she slowly, not with any force, not with any like, I have to see those people. She casually makes her way in the direction of the older couple and then finally like slips into being next to them and pulls out her flask and goes, sorry to bother you. There are so few people of taste or understanding of how things truly are in this room. I just wanted to stand next to a few people who got it all. And raises her flask and takes a small drink.
You are inspected. It is a powerful gaze. And one of the things that you notice that Clara recognizes is that the lady like does this like over the shoulder and kind of leading down to the breast of her dress. And you recognize it because that is what someone does to make sure their fur coat is all lined up. Like that's the gesture to make sure that like their mink stole or their fur coat, like that kind of that over the shoulder thing is settled. And if there's anything that tells you money, it's that someone has a like fur wearing like instinct. And they say, oh, very good. Well, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Chateau Westsmith. And they've got that kind of, they've got that a little bit New England, but not quite New England, like maybe upper state New York, transatlantic sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very polite, and they've got a vibe like they're at the yacht club. You know, they're just like, this is what we do for fun. You know, we go out and we have a nice dinner, and then we go watch people try to kill each other for money.
If we don't want to cliffhanger it, I can say what Clara is going for in this conversation.
Go for it.
She drops at least 2 other times the it's very nice to see what humanity is truly made of. Everybody wears such an illusion going through day and night.
Oh, I see.
And
Watching
what led
really-
and what
She is
what-
trying to see if they are in on the truth.
yeah. But
That
what
is-
inspired
she
you
is
to give
looking
them
at
a
that
truth check?
Yeah.
But what inspired that? Like how did Erica get that vibe? Like what?
Oh, because she thinks that Salvatore is answering to them. Bertrand's name is still caught up in all of this, and all of the Royal Phoenix money is caught up in all of this. So Salvatore and all of the mob that was on us, probably only on us because of things that were caught up with Bertrand, which would imply that this is probably the people who were inspiring and developing cults out here. That is where Clara is thinking.
Okay.
I'm so here for this.
Yeah.
You could be very wrong. That's why she's just very delicately dropping in this double speak, trying to see if they react or not. And being as casual, confident, sweet, charismatic, and upper class as she ever is. Just prime Clara territory while using doublespeak.
Yes. And when you say something like, you know, true humanity, when you kind of throw those lines out, the lady like kind of rolls her neck a little. I wouldn't want to go all the way up to a tell, but definitely like, okay. And she says, yes, we are in a bit of a rough place right now, and things are a little strange, maybe. But I firmly believe that we will rise from the ashes of where we are.
Oh no.
There's your fucking cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Sorry we killed all your friends.
No, sorry.
Perfect.
We took your
For those of you playing the home game, the sound of three butts puckering was because as we've said before, this was a game that was running before we were invited to stream, which we're still super thankful for, and we think this is really a whole fucking lot of fun. Is that there was a cult named the Royal Phoenix Society, of which their father was a apostate of, that between their father and the cult groomed them for like Ragnarok level bullshit, where their intention was to burn the world down and recreate it in the image of the old feudal ways. And those of you that have read all of the cult stuff can probably guess which archon they served. So, and the end of the game right before we started streaming and they flew out to Arizona was the deadly, awful, terrible, bloody revenge wrought for an entire lifetime of the creepiest version of the word grooming that you could imagine, like by people they considered family and friends and loved ones, and was then murdered in revenge for leaving the cult. It was very nasty and very ugly, and that rise from the ashes line was something they said. So the cliffhanger is that like the ancient foe has returned, and they're in a spot that they can't fucking do anything about it right now. So yeah, that's why everybody just did this. So, how are we feeling, team? Like, how are the players of the Van Horsts feeling right now?
I feel good.
Yeah, the Van Horsts have had their hearts stop for a solid like 2 to 3 minutes at this point, but they'll be okay.
Clara was very expecting it. That's why she was doing double speak. Like, awful to hear. Would have liked to put that to bed, but
well, as soon as you were like, "Oh, this reminds you of the Royal Phoenix Society," I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." Like, I'm okay with people guessing my foreshadowing. Like, does that mean that always feels like the foreshadowing is working?
Yeah, that means it's doing its
Like,
job.
Yeah, like when you correctly read the vibe, that tells me that something's working.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to find out exactly what kind of shitstorm is going to erupt, and also if you want to find out how mad of a bastard David is in a fight and if he'll be able to stop, and what cliffhangers, y'all, and you know what's going to come out of this underground fight club, come back at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard on, oh my lord, January 31st. Yes,
Nice.
it's 2 weeks away, but we promise it'll be worth it, just like every time. If you really want to know which fucking archon the cult that groomed the Van Horsts served, pick up a copy of the book at kultdivinitylost.com. We want to thank Helmgast and all for, as always, putting out the cult book. It's a beautiful book. It really fucking is. It's a beautiful book. And we want to thank the people at TTRP Theater for making us look good, for giving us this, like, I mean, look at this fantastic visual layout. It looks super fantastic. I mean, we saw it at the same time you guys saw it. We were all like, when the credits rolled, we're like, oh my God, this is so great. Because we're big nerds and we're all suckers for really good visuals. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. There's stuff all over the channel. Please check out the schedule on the Twitch channel. There's stuff happening almost every day. All of the other shows are great. You're not going to be ill-served by watching anything that shows up on this channel. Don't forget, player before game. Always practice your safety mechanics. Always negotiate your safety mechanics. Have fun. Scare the hell out of yourselves, have the catharsis of horror, and then put it away and go live your lives. So we thank you very much. We'll see you in 2 weeks. We are on the Discord here and there. If you want to yell at us for leaving you on a cliffhanger, direct that to me, not them. It's my fault. And so yeah, I think that's about it. We thank you very much. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and good night.